Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I think we will start our function today. We appreciate all of you coming and supporting. Please help yourself to food out in the lobby. We're grateful for your support and attendance. My name is Roger Harrison. I'm the president of the Lawrence Technological University chapter of the National Academy of Inventors. And welcome to our Lunch and Learn with LTU NAI. For our agenda today, we'll do a quick introduction and we're going to hand out the Inspired Inventor Award. Our keynote speaker today will be Marilyn Nash from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Marilyn is also an alumni, and welcome back, Marilyn. There you are. We're delighted to have you, and we thank you for supporting and coming out to share all of your great wisdom and experience with the USPTO. We look forward to that for sure. After that, in Marilyn's conclusion of her keynote address, we're going to have an expert panel for questions and answers. So, noted, if you can see the QR code here, this giant one, it is also in your program too. You can just scan it on your phone. And anyone that would like to contribute some questions to the event, that is the best way to go about doing that. So while things are happening with the expert panel, I will then start receiving those questions. We'll categorize them, and then I get to pepper them with these questions as we go through. And it actually keeps things flowing very well, but we have a lot of stuff to cover, and it makes things a little more efficient as far as the question itself, and then allowing them to address that. So scan this in, and this will be available for you. You can actually start putting questions in now if you have some, and then we'll sort through. Can't guarantee that I will ask everybody's question, but we'll go through and certainly contribute as much as we possibly can. So keep a note on that. Now, introduction. So who am I? Who is this guy talking to you, and what am I here to help you with, right? So I have a master's degree in engineering management, a minor degree in psychology. I just added that for a good reason, and we'll explain that a little bit later. I'm a retired forensic fire and explosion investigating engineer. Did that for 20 years. And I'm certified with the, I'm a CFI with the IAAI, which stands for the International Association of Arson Investigators. I've also had many courtroom appearances seeking my expert opinion of cause and origin of many fires and explosions. I'm a safety officer for the LTU College of Engineering and project engineer for the Department of Civil and Architectural Engineering with Chair Dr. Elin Jensen, and she's here somewhere. Oh, there she is. And also an inventor and patent holder. I'm an OSHA safety trainer with the general and construction industry, an OSHA safety specialist, and a professional musician. Award-winning invention for renewable energy semi-trailer. This summer, a mark of achievement, I was selected for the National Summer Teacher Institute by the USPTO and attended the training for basically a good learning and study of the USPTO. I highly encourage that. There's applications that you fill out, and they'll select from a large group of people and allow you to attend. So there was no cost, but lots of great information that I've learned and accomplished that back in July 21st to the 23rd. Now, we don't want to go any further without acknowledging Professor Ken Cook, who just recently passed away. Ken is the founder of the LTU chapter of the National Academy of Inventors. It was his dream that he wanted to provide this and bring this to LTU. And I'm hoping that we are fulfilling all of those wishes and dreams that he's had It's been interesting, and I've learned a lot, and we continue to grow. So, but all contributions to Ken and all of his efforts, worked here as a professor for 60 years. That's an amazing, that's actually 2 full careers, right? We're all happy when we count to 30, and Ken was here 60, so. He was a beloved teacher known for entertaining classroom presentations, one of the favorites for students. He made use of his professional level skills as a magician, and his LTU career began as an adjunct professor in 1964. How old were all of us in 1964? Or most of us maybe didn't exist. Professor Cook held 23 US patents. So he had a lot to say about that, and wanted everybody to know about developing patents, being an inventor, being creative, and following through on those, right? Now, one thing I want to recommend, this is a little personal touch, and I wanted to mention my minor degree in psychology. And some of you may or may not know about Thomas Edison and his struggles that he may have had as a child, right? Did you know Thomas Edison was kicked out of Port Huron schools? No? Now back in his era, late 1800s, early 1900s to 1931 when he passed, they did not have the term ADHD back then, right? So officially, he was never diagnosed with ADHD. But this book written by Tom Hartman, who is a child therapist who deals directly with ADHD children, and knowing the in-depth detail about Thomas Edison, was able to conclude that Thomas Edison was also ADHD. That's debatable by some people. That's okay, because it's interesting to hear what Tom Hartman has to say about his group of ADHD children that he therapies, right? It is his philosophy that we are drugging the Thomas Edisons of the future. And so what happened with Thomas Edison when he was kicked out of Port Huron schools? He came home asking his mom, like, what happened? Why don't they want me to come back there, right? Anybody know what his mom advised? Thomas Edison's mother said, well, you're too smart for them, and they don't know how to teach you, so you're going to stay home and I will homeschool you, right? And she basically was able to help develop one of the world's greatest inventors, right? So it's a mindset too, right? Because he grew up in his childhood thinking, well, I was too smart for school, right? She didn't lay down a bunch of excuses why he couldn't go or criticize him or call bad things. She knew how brilliant her child was, and she was going to take matters into her own hands, which I think she did an amazing job. Right? But Thomas Edison did not read that letter that was sent to his mother from Port Huron schools until after his mother had passed, and he was going through her personal belongings and happened to discover this letter, which really was, interesting in his discovery and how he explained that, but really says a lot to the accomplishments of his mom and a mother's love. But this is a great book. Tom Hartman is also very passionate about ADHD, the world of ADHD, their amazing capabilities that they have. And I just threw in this quote from Amazon as I just did this scroll just to see what they had to say. The Edison gene refers to the ADHD gene linked to traits like impulsiveness and is seen as a vital skill set for innovators, not a disorder. So, some things to think about. And a different perspective, if anything, at this point. But interesting read. It's an older book, but still beneficial and helpful, really, to interact with everybody and understand people's perspective. Now, we have a table out there. We have some cups that they're basically tumblers. They're stainless steel tumblers. And we've started a fundraiser for the National Academy of Inventors LTU chapter. If you're interested in helping, we can provide for you a special tumbler pertaining to our award, or we can actually customize one for you for LTU. But this particular one is the Inspired Inventor Award tumbler. And if you're interested in obtaining one, we can make one special for you. Just reach out to my wife, Carla, or our daughter, Emma, who is a great help with all of this stuff. They're floating around here somewhere. Carla's been maintaining the table with the pizza and all that stuff. So, and Emma is around here somewhere. Where did she go? Anyway, okay. So just let us know regarding that. The saying on the Inspired Inventor is, where there are brainstorms, lightning will soon follow. And I can tell you that occurred for my patent as well. It's just one of those awakenings, one of those moments that you have, like, this is a good idea, and I just couldn't stop writing until it was almost done. So it took me about 4 hours at the time when it happened to put it all to notes, but it's one of those amazing things, and it's I encourage everyone to try and get to that point. If you've not had an invention or had a brainstorm like that, it's very rewarding. Okay, now speaking of inspired inventors, we have a very special faculty member that we want to certainly acknowledge. We appreciate all of the hard work and want you to know about all of his accomplishments. Dr. Hao Zheng, PhD and biomedical engineering professor. Did you know he has multiple patents and multiple patents pending? And so he is a member of the National Academy of Inventors LTU chapter. And in recognition to all of these things that he's done, we are going to award him today the Inspired Inventor Award. And I have your plaque up here. Would you like to? Now, he's got a cast on, so we want to work with you. What do you want to recommend? You want me to just? You want to come around? Okay, very good. Yeah. Okay. Yep, he's going to negotiate the stairs, hopefully successfully. We don't need any more casts. And while he's doing that, I will show you. Get a chance. Here is the award.
Oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
Not very far.
You made it.
Very easy.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
All right. Step up.
Oh, sure. Oops. And put this one here. Sorry. Can I just put this one here? Oh, it doesn't fall.
We actually, about 30 years ago, I had a very similar injury, so we actually have matching injuries.
Good care.
Yeah, right. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow, brainstorm. Beautiful. Like, I really like this picture of this brainstorm. As Roger mentioned, this is like many inventions, like impulsive, right? Very often you're doing something, all of a sudden get triggered by just like very quick moment. It's, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe it's patentable. Then turns out to be some good idea. Really, I totally agree about this impulsiveness as an inventor. So, I mean, this is a great award. Thank you so much. Many thanks to LTU, National Academy Inventors, for giving this award. It's my great honor. Thank you so much for everybody. And thank you to Roger. Thank you to all the panelists today, Dr. Sob, Dr. Grace. And also we have panelist Marilyn here, and we have Barbara here, and Mr. Ward. Mr. Ward is a patent attorney who filed my patent application for the invention I'm talking about here. Now we have all of our, Dr. Mr., our new dean here too. Yeah, thank you for joining us. And then we have, I need to thank my wonderful colleagues who has been supporting me for so many years, and also my wonderful students who has made so much hard work for developing all these work from our lab and making an invention like that. So today I want to, when Roger invited me for participating in this event, I feel like from which angle I could share about my experiences. I feel like one experience I can share from my perspective is like, I was a tenure track faculty starting from 2019. I was an assistant professor. Then I got tenure just earlier this year. Now I'm an associate professor. So I'm actually kind of like a research-focused professor. Then maybe I could share some of my experiences from the faculty perspective about how you can possibly make parallel development in terms of getting invention. That is making a potentially products, making a patent. And at the same time, you can also use this one to drive your research. You can use it to publish papers. You can use it to apply for grant applications. So it will become a kind of win-win-win situation. So I want to share from this perspective. I mean, it's not like technical, but mostly kind of like experiences related to how to basically enhance the total work. And then as a tenure track faculty or tenure faculty, you need to build your scholarship, which is a very strong standard based on our performances. And then I strongly recommend consider doing some inventions related to your research. It can really broaden a lot of new possibilities, and these are possibilities I just want to show you. So when I joined Lawrence Tech 6 years ago, so at that time I was actually had lots of expertise in optics. So I got a PhD from electrical engineering. I did lots of work in optics and also optoelectronics. And then I wanted to somehow do a research related to clinical or health-related application. And it need to be a niche area, so I have to find an area not many people are trying to do, so it can be very novel. And also I want to find a problem that is very important to solve. And I also want to find a field so I can use my existing expertise to leverage about what I know before. Then I say, oh, which one I can do? So I did lots of research, lots of studies, and finally came into, okay, you know what? I can study about smoking and vaping, basically about using electronic cigarettes, what you're seeing here. So this one comes in, so why I'm doing so is because, first of all, smoking, vaping is a big problem. So smoking, vaping is still the #1 preventable causes of death in the United States. So if nobody smoke or nobody vape, you can save so many people's life potentially. So then it drew me to say, okay, how can I potentially using my expertise to help people who want to quit vaping, for example, who want to quit using electronic cigarettes. And then why it's related to my expertise is because later I figured out lots of the detection approach about detecting the vapor, we call vapor or we call aerosol. Those are particles inside released by the devices. Many of these approaches are based on optical detection. Then I got this trigger, like this is an impulse. I feel this is really an impulse, trigger me. Okay, so I'm very good in optics and I want to solve a health problem. Then I'm gonna work on the vaping. Then this one leads me to think about, okay, what can I do with this one? So this is a second trigger to me will be, so every time when I think about research idea, before diving into the details or experiments or any theories, I will first of all think about, is there any potential commercial value? Because any commercial value, you have to protect them upfront. You don't want to publish tons of papers and figure out that everybody can use it for free. I mean, just be fair enough, right? So you want to make sure the idea is protected, then you keep develop that one. So this one comes into, I filed my provisional patent application, and later Mr. Ward from Ward Law Office helped me to file the full patent application in the year 2022. And then we are actually getting very close to be awarded now. So I think this time after reply to the examiner, we probably will be rewarded. And one funny story about that one, so there is one potential patent infringing with our invention. And then it turned out like my priority day was actually earlier than the invention by just 7 days, which is a very narrow win. It's just kind of like, if you guys watch the World Series, right? World Series final, just winning by 1 home run, that's how close it is. So I won that one. I won the other application by just 7 days, which is totally random. I didn't even know why I submit on that day. I just submit 1 week early. So I'm gonna get that one, you know, that's what's gonna happen. So what you see here, this is my earliest invention. That's about electronic cigarettes. And I just hold this prototype. This is the first prototype ever developed. And later, my students, I have a few students already graduated, and I have another student, Elena, who is sitting in the back there. She is working on this project now. So what this device can do, so basically whenever users are doing vaping, and then it can detect the aerosol coming from it, and then tell the user how bad the aerosol is. I'm not trying to scare the user, but providing scientific information. For example, how many milligram of particles are there, and how much nicotine, how many microgram of nicotine there per puff. Then the purpose of this one is like, if we provide this information to the users, and the users are going to know quantitatively about the potential health hazard about vaping, then there's a big chance they're going to quit. This is kind of like, for example, in the daily life. For example, if somebody has like chronic diseases such as like high blood pressure or maybe diabetes, like if you try to persuade the person to change the life habits, it's going to be really hard. But if you keep showing the person the measurements, scientific measurement, for example, how your body weight is changing day after day, and how your blood sugar concentration changing hour by hour, then the person is going to have a lot of motivation. So this is why leading to this invention. So the patent application I'm putting on the bottom left corner there. So I also founded a company called Loom-Centric Technologies, which is located in our LTU accelerator being hosted there. And then in the future, the expectation is to, based on this company, try to make commercialization on these inventive sensor here. Just one quick funny thing, what you see on the right here is what I do for research. So here let me clarify. So invention and research is not actually conflicting with each other. It actually can enhance each other in a nice, resonating way. So for example, in terms of invention, we'll be focusing on a product or technology that can make, that can potentially make money. You need to protect it nicely. And then for research, we are going to focus on doing something very frontier, very novel, nobody has done, that can solve a real problem, and need to be interested to other researchers, or especially for clinical application. So what you see on the left, when I'm trying to talk about invention, I'm talking about how the device, how the product is made of. This is to protect the idea. And then when I talk about the research, I'm actually more driven on what is the clinical application of this technology, what health problem it can solve, what are my experimental results. For example, whatever you see on the middle here, that was me doing the vaping using these devices. One funny thing I just shared with our colleagues earlier, like I'm actually the only person in this university who are allowed to do vaping indoor. And I have a university paper, it's a one-page institutional review board, IRB approval, saying, Dr. Jiang, you can do vaping for your research purposes. So, so I'm the only person who can do this one. And I cannot even ask my student to do that one, because vaping for sure it's not a good habit. Like it's not really, it really has some risk. So I'm the only person who can do that one. So what you see on those graphs, basically saying like, it can monitor my vaping behavior puff by puff, about telling me how much aerosol I'm taking in and how much nicotine I'm taking. Oh, sorry, how much time do I have? Oh, are you okay? Oh, sure, sorry. Sorry, sometimes I lost track of time. My students know that. In the classroom, sometimes I talk too much. Sorry about that. And also, later, we also developed a new technology, which you see on the bottom there. That's another journal publication. So talking about later we think about, okay, so now we have an approach, we can use light to detect these particles. So, and we know, like light has different color, different wavelengths. So longer wavelength light is more sensitive to bigger particles, and shorter wavelength light is more sensitive to smaller particles. Then if we send a light that has all different wavelengths, then we can expect to get different responses based on the wavelengths of light. And if we want to analyze it, so how to do? We can use machine learning, so which come into another research being done by our group, which is published very nicely. Using machine learning and multiple wavelengths, we will be able to measure not only just total particle, but also particle in different sizes. And this is important because bigger particles, usually when users are taking aerosols, bigger particles usually stay on the upper airway. Small particle actually goes into deep lung. So if we know how much small particles are there, then we can predict what is the health hazard. That is leading to what I mentioned in the beginning, that's called nicotine dosimetry, which can precisely monitor about how much users are taking when they're doing the vaping. So this is one invention. So as you see here, this is an example. I say like, really invention and research, they can really go parallel and they enhance each other, then leading to a better future. And another invention I want to quickly mention, this is actually a lot of collaborative work. I feel like lots of inventions can be inspired, especially if you work with industry partners. That we have industry-sponsored projects. Excuse me, let me move a little bit, sorry. You have industry-sponsored project we call ISP project. So we have a project sponsored by Orum Clinical Analytics, given by Sean Murtha, who is a clinical perfusionist, who has been LTU's partner for building cardiovascular perfusion program, and we have been working for many years. So he brought this idea to us to say, okay, the perfusionists, when they are being used, this is the heart-lung machine to circulate patients' blood when the patients are under the cardiac surgery. So in one of their process, they have a reservoir. This reservoir is basically storing the venous blood you drain from the patient, then launch the blood into oxygenator and pump it back into the patient. So what Sean Murtha told us at that time was like, there is missing a sensor here to measure what's the volume in the reservoir. And this quantity of this volume is actually very important because it can tell the perfusionist about how much liquid you need to add or how much liquid you need to withdraw. Or if you want to do like a hemodilution, there are a few like technical term, clinical term like that. So we took this task and then we made an invention. So we actually made multiple inventions. So what you see on here, this was the first patent application we did, first invention. We invented the optics-based sensor, which was done by our biomedical engineering senior design team in this photo here about 2 or 3 years ago. And then later, we further developed this one into another invention, patent number 2. This one we're using computer vision, so using the camera to watch into the reservoir to figure it out. And this one, I'm working with Dr. C.J. Chang and his student from computer science, and also biomedical engineering student, which are, this is our inventor team as of today now. So basically, we got 2 patent applications, and we also published 2 very nice journal articles out of this work. And then, furthermore, because we work so closely with clinicians, and then we know kind of like what's the future of this technology, and we know this is going to be innovative, it's going to change the game potentially. So we also apply for grant applications. So what you see on the bottom part, those are the pending grant applications. One is the NIH STTR grant. So these are the grants being awarded to the company and in collaboration with the university for moving a innovative research. And then this actually, if this one can be awarded, it can be a big driven factor for the company to grow. So basically, for a startup company or technology company, if they want an NIH STTR or SBIR grant, these are equivalent. And it's considered like a big recognition by the scientific field like that. So we're working on that one, and hopefully we can hear the real panel this month or next month, depending what's the situation with the government shutdown. We don't know that yet. Okay, another one, like we also applied another grant in American Heart Association. So what I want to show you here, again, it's another example, is that we can protect our ideas, getting this impulsive, and then getting this product or technology to protect it in mind. And then in the same way, protect them using patent application. At the same time, we also do research to get like nice papers published, to get ourselves like well recognized by the field, and people are citing our papers, knowing we're doing this one. And then we can also try to get more research grants. And then this will create, I call this kind of like a positive feedback loop, if you ask me. There's an electrical engineering term, positive feedback loop, getting bigger and bigger, and then that will be a bright future. I hope so that can happen in that direction like that. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty much like all I have, sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time listening. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate that.
All right. One more hand, if you would. Yeah? Great job. Love the enthusiasm, right? He's really passionate about his work, and it shows. If you can develop multiple patents, those are critical things that I think we all need to work on improving, so that we can have that available. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot was the identity of the National Academy of Inventors, the LTU chapter. One of the things that I can see as far as the inventor process, I think we all have the belief that we need to invent something that is a product that we can sell on Amazon, right? And that's not always the case. As far as the National Academy of Inventors as well, they embrace academia for many different reasons. But they have universities all over the world that are members. Their institutions are members. And the benefits is more for protecting all of that intellectual property than from perhaps making huge profits from it. But if you're a research faculty, professor, think, well, what would be the benefit for me to have a patent from research? Are we going to be able to make millions off of it? And that's a good question, right? I mean, we need to consider the investment and the time and everything that's involved, but we want to protect your intellectual property. If you've developed something that somebody's going to use for continued research, maybe another university, they would then have to reach out to you and license your intellectual property, and those are opportunities for making arrangements with other universities. Perhaps there is a financial benefit to that, or maybe depending on what the group decides of what they want to do. But that basically builds these protective walls of the institution so that they come to you for that intellectual property, and they have to give you credit for that. And that means a lot in today's times. One of the things that I learned at the Michigan Inventors Coalition was the arrangement with Amazon. We all want to get rich quick, and maybe we've got a product that we want to sell on Amazon, but do you know what happens to your product on Amazon if it's a hit and successful and you start selling a lot of them? Yeah, foreign countries get involved. They see, oh, this product is making great sales, right? And then before you know it, there is an identical replica of your product. It is also being advertised on Amazon, and they're now taking your customers that would buy your product, and now those customers are buying their product instead. So that's directly involved with protecting your intellectual property or perhaps your product. And the one suggestion that people have, because who's the moderator in a situation like that? Amazon, right? They have the authority to step in and say, well, you can't sell this product. This is identical to the owner's product that's been on here. What are we supposed to do about that? Well, how Amazon settles those things, well, prove it. How do we prove stuff? Yeah, well, now they're encouraging you to have a trademark. Put a trademark, copyright it, protect it, right? And then Amazon sees that proof. And then what do they do to the one that doesn't have the trademark? You're out, just like that. So that is at least one way of approaching that. But that means, like, well, does that mean everything I sell on Amazon that's a success that I'm going to have to get a trade? Well, you may want to consider doing that. Now, how much does a trademark cost? What's the fee for a trademark? Anybody know? If you do it yourself, right? What's that? $350. And that, now, there are things that are necessary. You have to do your homework, you have to do your research, you got to do all of the searches. So there is a lot of information that you have to obtain, or you can hire an attorney like Mr. Ward. He's very helpful with that regard as well. But there are plenty of things that you can do. There's also free training that the USPTO will provide and help you with, so that you can do that early on research. And then when you think you've got really a marketable product, then that's, approach the patent attorney and say, look, I'm serious about this, and let's make this happen. So. All right, here's your last chance for the Q&A form. I'll show you this QR code one last time, and then we're going to roll up the screen and have our expert panel come up and open the way for maybe a lot of these questions to be addressed, especially pertaining to faculty. I think that's wonderful that faculty and students, right, as far as intellectual property, what are the end results of all of this research that we're doing? What if they come up with intellectual property? Who has those rights? How is that processed? It's just a long list of things that inquiring minds want to know, right? So, and that's where we're at. Anybody need to see this any longer? Okay. So, I'm going to leave this up for Marilyn. Marilyn Nash serves as the Interim Assistant Regional Director and Regional Outreach Officer for the Midwest Elijah J. McCoy Regional Outreach Office of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, located in Detroit, Michigan. In this capacity, she provides intellectual property resources and programming to innovators, stakeholders, and rights holders throughout the 9-state region. Marilyn joined the USPTO in 2021 as a program analyst before accepting her current role as Regional Outreach Officer in 2022. She has held several impactful positions across her 19-year federal career within the Small Business Administration as a Business Opportunity Specialist, the U.S. Army Tank and Automotive Command as an Industrial Base Specialist, the Defense Contract Management Agency as a Portfolio Manager, and the Defense Logistics Agency as a Senior Acquisition Policy Analyst. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Management from Lawrence Technological University and a professional certification as an Innovation and Technology Commercialization Professional from Georgia Tech. Welcome, Marilyn Nash, back to Lawrence Tech.
And I'm hoping everyone can see me. I thought the podium was going to be a little bit
We can change that if you'd like. We can have you sit in one of the chairs.
No, this is fine.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Roger, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today. Back to a place where I can say it truly started my career, my educational path, and as Roger mentioned, as part of my bio, my now almost 20-year federal career. So to President Soap, Dr. Grace, Dean Misra, Dr. Jean, Mr. Ward, Ms. Lyons, members of the National Academy of Inventors, faculty, staff, students, and guests, it is truly an honor to be here with you today at Lawrence Tech. Standing here does feel a little surreal. My connection to Lawrence Tech actually runs deeper than my own time here. My father attended this university back in the late 60s when it was still called Lawrence Institute of Technology. He was part of a generation that saw the world changing and rapidly believed that technology and education were the keys to progress. So to stand here today, decades later, representing both him and my own journey as an alumni is an incredible full circle moment. I do remember walking this campus as a student trying to figure out what kind of engineer or professional am I going to be. I ultimately chose to pursue that Bachelor of Science in Industrial Management and was actually part of the last class to have that degree awarded from the College of Engineering in May of 2007. Back then, I never imagined that I returned as the keynote speaker, let alone as the Interim Assistant Regional Director and Regional Outreach Officer for the Midwest Elijah J. McCoy Regional Outreach Office of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. What a title. So Lawrence Tech has always been a university of doers. This is a place where students weren't told what innovation is. They actually got a chance to experience it. You design, you test, you refine, and sometimes you fail spectacularly, and that's how you learn. That same hands-on spirit is what drives the National Academy of Inventors and why today's gathering is so meaningful. We're here not just to celebrate innovation, but to remember that invention begins with curiosity and courage. Today, we're sitting inside of an ecosystem of innovation and invention. We have esteemed President Soap, who leads the university that has put innovation at the core of its mission. Dr. Grace, a patented inventor who has the oversight and responsibility of advanced research and economic development right here at LTU. Dean Misra, also a patented inventor and visionary academic leader. Jake Ward, who lives in a world where ideas meet the law and become protected intellectual property. Dr. Jean, who we're honoring with the Inspired Inventor Award for his work in biomedical engineering. And Ms. Barbara Lyons, an inventor and founder who took an idea, the Leafinator, and turned it into something real, something useful, and something that literally cleans up the messes in the world. This is a powerful mix of perspectives: academia, law, industry, and government. And that's important because innovation never happens in one lane. It's the intersection that creates the breakthrough. Looking back, I realized that LTU was quietly training me to think like an inventor, to see constraints not as walls, but as design parameters, to break big problems into smaller, solvable pieces, and to work on teams where everyone brings a slightly different perspective. Those skills followed me along after graduation. They followed me into my career, beginning with the U.S. Army here in Warren, Michigan, into my assignment at the Pentagon as part of federal procurement with the Small Business Administration, and again, now here with USPTO. But these skills weren't developed just in the classroom. They began with mentorship and with opportunity. Back in 2006, I remember I was a member of LTU's Solar Decathlon team. We were a group of students who were relatively unfamiliar with each other, and we were brought together to design and build a fully solar-powered home for the U.S. Department of Energy's competition that eventually took the team to Washington, D.C. We were a small university competing against giants like MIT and Cornell, yet we stood shoulder to shoulder with them at the National Mall. That project demanded every ounce of creativity, engineering skill, and teamwork we had. Under the guidance of Professor Philip Plowright, now the Architecture and Design Chair, I learned what it truly meant to integrate ideas across disciplines, to merge design, sustainability, and systems thinking into a living single model. That experience taught me that invention isn't confined to a lab. It's a living, breathing collaboration that happens when people believe in something bigger than themselves. There was also Dr. Richard Bush, my advisor at the time, who encouraged me to apply for a summer program with the U.S. Army. His words were simple but powerful. Just get your foot in the door, right? I think this is a great opportunity for you. And that opportunity gave me my first exposure to applied research in the field and opened my eyes to the role engineers play in national innovation and defense. But before Professor Plowright and Dr. Bush, there was Professor Jerry Cooper of my manufacturing and materials courses. He wrote the reference letter that helped me land an internship at American Axle. That experience taught me about real-world industry and production, again, the applied theory and practice that LTU promotes. Their support wasn't just about the opportunities they pointed me toward, it was about the belief that they placed in me. They reminded me that mentorship is a form of innovation too, and that's how we shape future inventors. These combined lessons and experiences I've carried from those years at LTU eventually led me here to the USPTO, an institution built on the belief that ideas are amongst America's greatest assets. Every patent, every trademark represents someone's courage to bring a new idea to the world. Almost daily, I see inventors from all walks of life, students, entrepreneurs, engineers, scientists, veterans, each one trying to make a dent in the universe. I get a front row seat to human creativity. I see ideas that started as sketches in notebooks, CAD files on a laptop, or prototypes in someone's garage, and then grow into protected inventions that can attract investment, create companies, and impact lives across the globe. So innovation just isn't an American story. It really is a global language. A technology here developed in Michigan can improve manufacturing in Germany. It may inspire research in South Korea, or even help communities in Africa adapt to renewable energy. That is the power of invention. It transcends geography, culture, and time, but it always starts somewhere, and that somewhere, or should I say, someone, is you. So when I look at you, I don't just see faculty and students. I see future applicants, future founders, future patent examiners, and attorneys. So why does this matter? Innovation, again, is not just about shiny objects or cool apps. At its core, it is about solving problems that real people actually have. It is about creating value when there was none before. And it is about expanding what's possible for communities, countries, and the planet. So when you file a patent with the USPTO, you're not just protecting an idea for yourself. You're participating in a system that has driven technological progress for over 2 centuries. The U.S. patent system is built on a simple but profound bargain. Share your idea with the world, teach us how it works, and in return, society gives you a period of protection that you can build, scale, and commercialize that idea. That exchange is part of why we see so much innovation centered here. It's an exchange that encourages risk-taking and investment. Sometimes we talk about innovation in these really big terms and it feels distant, so I do want to bring it a little closer. If I may borrow Barbara's Leapinator, on paper, it's a product. In practice, it's a response to a simple, everyday frustration, cleaning up leaves efficiently and with less pain. She saw a problem, she cared enough to solve it, and she did the hard work to turn that solution into a protected invention with real-world impact. The same is true for Dr. Zhao's work in biomedical engineering. These are not abstract ideas. They're tools, they're therapies, and technologies that change health outcomes for families who may never know the names behind the patents. That's the heart of innovation. It is ideas and problems converted into design and solutions. So how do you, faculty, staff, and students step into this world of innovation and invention? Let me leave you with 3 challenges. 1, treat your frustrations as data. The next time something annoys you on campus, at work, or in your community, pause and ask, why does it have to be this way? What would better look like? What would it take to build that? Every major invention started with someone being bothered enough to do something about it. 2nd, learn the language of intellectual property early. You are here at a university with faculty, labs, and connections to people within the administration and the NAI chapter who understands patents and technology transfer. You also have the USPTO as a resource. I encourage you not to wait until you have a fully formed product, a service, or startup to learn about IP. You can start now by attending workshops. The USPTO has a number of free webinars and events both in person and across the U.S. that inform the public on how to identify and protect their IP. Talk to your deans about disclosure and protection of university-developed IP, or seek advice from an IP attorney if you're developing IP on your own. You can also explore our free resources at the USPTO, including pro bono programs, law clinics, pro se assistance, Trademark Assistance Center, the Inventors Assistance Center, and other educational materials. That part I really could go on and on about. When you understand how patents, trademarks, and other forms of IP, such as copyrights and trade secrets, work, you're not just a good engineer or good scientist, designer, or entrepreneur. You're now a savvy innovator who knows how to protect and leverage what you create. Last, build invention teams, not just project groups. Some of you love coding, some love hardware, some of you love design or communication or business models. Innovation needs all of that. The problems we're facing are too big for any one discipline. The best ideas come, again, at the intersections: engineering and policy, design and law, science and storytelling. So look around this room. Your next collaborator, co-founder, or patent co-inventor might be sitting just a couple rows behind you. If I could look back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be this: we're not just here to earn a degree. You're here training your mind to solve problems that the world hasn't fully articulated yet. You all are doing the same thing. Some of you are or will go on to start companies. Some of you are or will become researchers and professors. Some of you may already work in policy, law, or government. Some of you have and will create inventions that none of us in this room can even imagine today. But all of you have a role in shaping the future of innovation. And as you listen to today's panel, as you hear from our awardee and fellow experts, I want you to hold one question in the back of your mind. What problem in the world keeps tugging at me, and what am I willing to build to change that? That tug is often the birthplace of your most meaningful inventions. In closing, I just want to say again, thank you to Lawrence Tech, to the National Academy of Inventors, to my fellow panelists, and all of you for giving me a chance to come back home and share this moment with you. I'm excited to see what you'll create, what you'll protect, and how you'll transform not just this campus or this region, but the world. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marilyn. We appreciate you, and we certainly welcome you to Lawrence Tech. Welcome back. And love to hear about Jerry Cooper. Jerry is another one of those high-energy individuals, hardworking, and still here to this day, and amazing people that we have here for sure. One last chance for your Q&A, which I already have 21 questions, by the way. So we have a load for our panel, and that's encouraging, and I appreciate everybody committing to those. But at this point, we can go ahead and raise our screen and invite all of our guests, President Soap, Dr. Grace, and also Marilyn again. So, and we can get started with our questions after we introduce. I'm sorry? Yeah, start with you, Jake.
All right, welcome everyone. Jake Ward, founder of Ward Law Office, registered patent attorneys. Happy to be here.
Hello everybody, I'm Barbara Lyons, inventor of the Leafinator ergonomic rake, and I am honored to be here.
Good afternoon, Tarek Sobh, President of Lawrence Tech.
Good afternoon, Marilyn Nash, United States Patent and Trademark Office.
Hello, Nabil Grace, Senior Vice President for Research.
Good afternoon. My name is Hao Jiang, Associate Professor of Biomedical Engineering.
Good afternoon, Devesh Misra, Dean of the College of Engineering.
Great. Thank you all so much. And I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, the powers that be. And currently on stage, we have the powers that be. They've all were very kind in supporting this event and some very important topics to discuss for sure. No question on any of that. And we're grateful to have all of you here at this moment to participate in this question and answer session. So one of the first ones, let's see, what is the normal timeline for patent award? I see that Hao Jing's application is still pending from September 2022. So this is kind of an open question for any of you. But I would first like to at least say like the status of my patent and everything that happened. I came up with the idea in 2004 and received endorsement and the patent in 2009, just so you know. Now that's back in the early 2000s, right? The USPTO is working really hard at improving that so that the response time is much faster. But that is my situation. But anybody else?
I'll just jump in and say from the Patent and Trademark Office, so yes, we are working on pendency. We're hiring many patent examiners to help reduce that pendency so that we are seeing more applications, those final decisions coming to market sooner. I would say it really does depend on the technology. I would say on average though, we are seeing 3 years approximately if your application is to be granted. And I do have to drop in that if, because we don't often see, just because you file a patent application, it doesn't mean that it will be awarded. I'm sure Jake can speak to this, right? There is also a lot of back and forth that takes place, so I encourage you as a filer to remain responsive and timely in your responses to not delay that process. But again, depending on the complexity of your technology, I would say perhaps 3 years on average.
Yeah, and I can support Marilyn on this from the other side of the practitioner fence. It is about 3 years is what we would normally quote in terms of the timing between the beginning of the process and the end following examination by the Patent Office. And I do want to make a real quick comment about this because I've talked about this previously that It's a long time to go through the patent process, and there's a lot of work back and forth, but this is because patents are valuable. And if all you had to do was pay a fee and get a rubber stamp, well, then anybody could do it, and it would drive the value of patents down. So the important function of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office is to vet these creations, these innovations, and make sure that they do truly rise to the level of patenting so that they can be usable, you know, for all the commercial efforts and give investors the confidence they need.
I just want to jump in, and actually I'm going to impersonate Roger here as a moderator, because actually I'm very curious, and this is a question actually to our keynote speaker. With the rise of AI and people like us using AI for every single thing, every single day, from writing emails to research papers and so on, what do you see from an efficiency and consistency point of view, the role of AI in the evaluation process actually going forward? I'm sure there are lots of discussions, and I'm personally very curious.
Yes, thank you for that. There are lots of discussions, and I think with the evolution of AI, the tools as they're developing, the Patent Office, as well as the U.S. Copyright Office, right, our partner in intellectual property protection, are currently examining ways. How can AI assist with that examination process? Just recently, the USPTO did launch a pre-examination pilot, right? AI-powered pilot. It is, we're currently collecting feedback to see how that is going to work. And so I think this is one of the steps that the agency is taking to learn how AI can assist, how it can be helpful. Hopefully it won't hallucinate, right? And it won't create those sort of things. It will. But it is under analysis right now, right? There is no definite path forward. But again, I think what we're hearing from our stakeholders and from the innovation community, seeing that AI tool recently launched for that pre-exam, again, hoping that that will add some efficiency to the process, maybe reduce some of those timelines. That is at least exciting.
Can I just ask a quick question about AI? Does USPTO allows patent application to be mainly written by an AI? Can I tell? I'm just curious. Sorry, I don't know.
You know, so when the patent examiners are looking at the application, if there are any questions, they are going to need to refer either to the IP attorney. The IP attorney will have to refer back to the inventor, or if you have filed as a pro se inventor, that patent examiner will need to reach back to you. So I'll say the likelihood of it being able to communicate with AI is, you know, close to zero for AI written, right? There may be some assistance perhaps within the legal communities. There have been talks about different tools for developing that. But I think that we're right now a long ways from being able to provide an answer as to how we will treat applications written by AI.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Here's one for Dr. Grace. How does LTU approach the protection and management of intellectual property arising from faculty and student research?
That's a very good question. And usually, if a faculty member has an application or interest, he will submit it to the dean, and the dean will make a recommendation to the provost, and then we take it further up, and actually we look into it if there's really seriousness about it and how much it will cost, and we will reach over to our attorney here, and he would give us some recommendation, yes or no. Sometimes we'll say, you know what, we'll take care of it, and we have something going on right now, I believe, for you and for a couple more people, for CJ and also for James. So we have 3 ongoing right now with our attorney here. If we see there's no benefit of this, we'll say, no, we are not interested. And it depends on the cost too.
Yeah. Here's one for Dean Misra. When do you disclose an invention?
I think to disclose an invention, make sure that it has not been published, the work has not been published more than 1 year. This is my understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So I think ideally it should be, you know, I think there's a system called provisional patent filing. So disclose your invention as soon as possible, even before the publication. I mean, that's advisable. but you are allowed to file a patent provided it has not been published more than 1 year.
Interesting. And those are all good points on it. Jake, I think, he's got a point he wants to make about that too.
Well, yeah, you know, and I think Dean's absolutely right in terms of the 1 year. It's either the 1 year bar to patenting or the 1 year grace period. It depends on what side of the fence you are when you reach the 1 year period. But the one sort of nuance I was going to mention, that 1 year grace period is a U.S. law. And patents are what we call territorial, meaning every country has their own laws that control the patenting in those countries. And so I would usually advise if there is any foreign market associated with the invention or anticipated where you might want to sell outside of the U.S., you usually want to preserve your rights by filing first, and then you go into a public disclosure, publication, sort of, or sale at that point. That way you preserve your rights worldwide, even in those countries that don't have 1 year grace periods like we do here in the U.S.
And I do want to add, and it may go without saying, disclosure is not only the white papers, but it is if you plan to speak at a conference, that can also be considered disclosure. And so even if you next week you say, oh, I forgot, I have this conference coming up in which I intend to disclose this research or sort of this idea that may turn into an invention, or you wish to file, please speak immediately with the offices here or with counsel, because you do want to protect that, and it may be done through that provisional filing. I know that it would be a rapid, right? It would put a lot of pressure on you, but you do want to put that protection around your intellectual property as soon as possible.
I was going to say, just on a sidebar there, I can't tell you the number of times I've received those phone calls and like, well, yeah, I'm going to the conference tomorrow.
Yes.
And we will move mountains to make sure that provisional is filed before that happens.
Yeah, those answers all resonate with me. So for example, when we work on the project involving students, I told them like before filing provisional patent application, I told my student, don't disclose anything. I mean, don't post anything on social media because of the public disclosure. And then don't talk to people about the idea without a non-disclosure agreement. Otherwise, like there'll be public disclosure. So have to make sure everything gets protected before filing provisional. Then I told my student after provisional being filed, feel free to post anything you want. Social media, anything, I'm okay. I mean, our sponsor okay too. But that's kind of like the mark we're using as a bar. I hope that's correct, right? Okay. Yeah, thanks.
And if we can direct that to LTU events, right? Research Day in April. I know Jake, was talking about that to me prior. So that if you've got some intellectual property that you haven't protected, you got to be careful about how you present that stuff, right? And make sure that it's protected before it goes out.
Not only protected, but I can give you an example. My first patent, I remember I had a contract with ARL, Army Research Lab. And when I called my co-inventor, which he works for the ARL, he said, let's talk to the attorney for the Army. And attorney said, no, this has to be a secret patent. And took a few years until we cleared this, removing a lot of claims, until he would allow me to approach my attorney to file for a patent. And actually, we got a patent. But there's a lot of things that you need to clear before even you approach your attorney.
I have a question as well as an inventor. It's my understanding that once you file the provisional and then the non-provisional, you have a certain time frame in which you can file an international for protection. And I would like to know how that works, because it's my understanding that if you pass a certain time frame, you can't file an international.
And Marilyn, do you want me to take this one, or do you want to jump in on
Well,
this?
I'll just speak from right, because I'm not going to jump over the legal fence here. I'm going to let Jake answer those questions. But we do always encourage, if you do intend to sell outside of the U.S., have those discussions very early with your IP attorney. As Jake mentioned, right, within the U.S., we have different rules for our patent system than some outside. The U.S., for instance, is a first to file country. Some other countries are first to invent. So you need to align your disclosures, which include your patent applications, to understand will you lose protection in a foreign market if you file in the US first? Or what sort of timeline do you have, or how do you align that to increase your path to protection in a foreign market?
And then to add the legal perspective, right, to answer the question on the timing, there are certain international treaties that basically, some of the most successful international treaties of all time, by the way, that actually control the timeline for filing foreign applications. It usually starts with the filing of the US provisional first, and then what will happen is not only do you have 1 year before you need to convert that over to the US non-provisional, which is the vehicle that it then goes through the examination process at the Patent Office, but you also have underneath international treaty, it's called the Paris Convention for anybody who wants to know. The Paris Convention says that you also have that same 1 year period to make your foreign filings. And there's a second treaty that sometimes you will hear about if you ever talk to your patent attorney, called the PCT, stands for the Patent Cooperation Treaty, and that works in conjunction with Paris Convention. So you get 1 year from your provisional filing, and then if you file as a PCT, you actually get 18 more months, or another 1.5 years before you really have to make the judgment call on which countries you want to start examination in. And that's when costs begin to ramp up. You know, it could be multiples if you go into multiple countries. So nominally, 1 year, and then 30 total months, 2.5 years if you go the PCT route.
Can add from a prospective inventor point of view, like really resonant with the experience here. So I kind of feel like in the entire patent application processes in terms of the cost and how much money being spent, it's like the PC application, US patent application doesn't cost that much. The major cost is actually coming to a point you need to make a decision which countries you want to enter, right? For example, each country you have to pay a separate fee for that country. Some countries are more expensive, some countries are less expensive. And then you have to make a decision about how many potential markets you want to work on. I feel like that's actually, to me, I feel like that's kind of the moment financial stress suddenly kick in to say you have to make financial decision about how much you expect the product can make the money out of the market and how much you're going to pay on the patent application fee. That's actually kind of thing I feel like a little bit challenging, honestly, to handle.
And it may not be the profitability or your commercialization plans that you would consider. You may also consider, particularly as a research university, are you conducting research in another foreign market? Perhaps you need to secure intellectual property protection there, even if you don't have plans to commercialize, and if you're manufacturing overseas, right? And even if you're planning to sell, there is no worldwide patent, right, Jake? There's no worldwide patent. So when you're filing within the US, that is only protecting you from anybody else making, selling, using, modifying your patent for profit here within the US or importing your invention into the US. And so those are some other considerations, that research component and that manufacturing component aside from commercialization.
Just one final comment, then we can move on to the next question. Sorry, Roger. In the university innovation setting, I think another controlling factor for whether you do any foreign or PCT filings or not is what are the interests of your business partners in the research, right? If you have a company that you're working with, perhaps they may actually have foreign markets that are very important to them, and so it's just an additional consideration. But you're absolutely right; patents are expensive. And the more countries you go into, it begins to multiply quickly. So it's a very business decision to be made relatively early on in the process.
Okay, well, moving on. This one's for Barbara. Looking back on everything. Well, I'm sorry.
Can you? I can't hear. Can you? Either come up or just raise your voice. Come up, yeah.
The last 2 years that I heard about was about the WIPO, World International Patent Organization, something that first you register your patent, for example, in the US or any country that you're in, and then after that you apply for that WIPO, then international
Yes, what that you are referring to, the World Intellectual Property Organization, they facilitate that patent cooperation treaty, the PCT application. So that is what you're referring to is the PCT international application process where you file, and then it delays the amount of time before you really have to start examination in specific foreign countries under their local laws. And that's administered through WIPO. It's all by the agreement, and I believe there are currently 158 total countries that are party to the PCT, that Patent Cooperation Treaty. So it's not every country in the world, but most countries anybody would ever want to seek patent protection in are actually covered. On the flip side of that, even though it makes you patent pending for 2.5 years, no company, not even the ones with the deepest pockets, ever go into all 158 countries. It's just it's cost prohibitive. So it's all about selecting those markets, which is what we've been saying earlier, that are important to you, your business partners, your licensees, and then making a judgment call.
Are we good? Okay. Back to Barbara. Looking back, what do you wish you had known before starting the patent process? The learning experience.
That's a really great question. Thank you for asking. The journey has been a long journey, quite honestly. When I filed my first patent, it was in 2021. I received my patent actually in 2023, so it didn't take very long. But just looking back, I wish I had at least examine or research the proper steps to take when attempting to launch a product to market. I personally believe that bringing a product to market, there are steps that are, certain things that you should be doing first, and second, and if you, get those out of order, you can waste a lot of time or waste a lot of money. So I would want to research the proper measures to take.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, for Dr. Jean, as a faculty member, which I'd like to deep dive into this too, how do you create inventions and patents out of research work, to kind of share with others, like what are your methods and how do you derive that?
Talking about this one, actually I think it can be better if you can make a flow chart somehow. It's like each point you have to make a decision. I feel like if you imagine a computer flow chart, it will be like, okay, now there's an idea. Then it's a decision point. Do you think there's a commercial value or no commercial value? So some are fundamental research, some are translational research. If it is translational research, you make a decision, do you think there's a commercial value and how much value is there? And then if you believe there is commercial value, then the first thing you should do should be applying for provisional patent application to make sure the idea is perfectly protected, at least for 1 year. Then within that 1 year frame, we can do a lot more research, develop details, do experiments, develop proof of concept, get all the results. Then we can file, coming to the flowchart, we'll be coming to file the full patent application within a 1 year period before the provisional patent application expires. And then this one will get us registered as a priority day, which is the day we apply for the provisional patent application. And then this will be the moment I feel like this is the moment like it's free to disclose because the idea is fully protected. And then that will be the point I feel like the research can be fully expanded into getting as much as exposure as possible because we want people to know we are the people who invented this thing, and then if you guys are interested in the technology, we can license to you. I think that will be kind of like how I see this flowchart to go. It's all starting from this impulses of getting invention and then coming down into an action plan in the end. I hope that's follow your teaching, like Mr. Ward, you told me about all this process. I hope that's
right. No, that's excellent. That's exactly.
One thing I want to mention, like Mr. Ward actually has been guest speaker for my class, medical devices design. He taught us about our students about how to draft provisional patent applications. And we do have students like benefiting a lot from that one. For example, last year one of our senior design team, we drafted a provisional patent application for one of the company, and their attorney saying like we drafted like a pro. I mean, thanks to you for teaching.
That's awesome to hear.
I use your material, give it to them, and follow this guideline, draft like this.
That's great to hear, and I know the flow chart, by the way, you're talking about. I think I drew that flow chart. And I showed it during class. So, but yes, yeah. Well, thank you for letting me know that.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Just adding a very quick comment to this, the kind of research happening in an academic institution like Lawrence Tech is very much varied, and in many cases, that research might be supported by a particular entity, whether that entity is a grant that has been funded by the federal government or the state, or whether that entity is an actual company that funded that research. And in some cases, the research is not funded at all. It's basically intellectual property of significant merit that the faculty member and or the students have developed. So prior to the flow chart, or I guess at the very first step of that flow chart, we must know who are the involved entities, because some of them will have a claim if they have funded that research. And that's just one additional step to add. That's all.
I was just going to say very quickly, Dr. Soap, on that as well, it's also the law that if the government is the source of the funding, that they have to be identified in the application. So absolutely, it happens. That's a question to ask before you file any application.
Okay, here's another one for Dr. So. What is LTU's vision for balancing academic freedom with commercial innovation through IP?
Again, I think our professor said it very eloquently a few minutes ago. In an institution as diverse as Lawrence Tech, you will get all kinds of sponsored research and non-sponsored research and projects of significant intellectual merit and broader impact in every corner of the university. Some of these projects are viewed or could be viewed as to be of commercial viability. And thus we have a division for economic and research development that actually helps the faculty members right from the get-go thinking about whether this is something that is worth patenting or not. And if it is something that is worth patenting with the involvement of the university would be sponsoring this, either partially or fully, and it becomes a joint journey. If the university decides that this particular project is not, in its own opinion, worth patenting or getting involved in, it is really up to the researcher to decide whether he or she would like to pursue this on their own as a commercial potential project that needs patenting, or is it a project that could be discussed and published in journals and papers and seeking sponsored research and or industry and or other funding for, etc. So we encourage all aspects of intellectually meritorious projects, whether they are patentable or not patentable, because they have different outcomes, and we celebrate all these outcomes.
Interesting, thank you. Here's one, it looks like from a student. Looking to get into patent law after my Bachelor's of Science in Engineering. Any advice on how to get there and best prepared for the road ahead?
I'll let you speak to the attorney path, and I'll speak to the examination path.
Got it. Because that's what I was going to suggest. I mean, one very good way as a path to becoming a patent attorney would be working at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office as a patent examiner first. And I'll let Marilyn, like you said, you can speak to that. But for anyone who is graduating with a undergraduate degree in science or engineering, patent law is absolutely a career path that you can look at. And it's one that I guess many who get into science and engineering don't normally think of as an endpoint, but there's a huge need for it. And the ability to be able to speak and understand the technical and translate that into the legal is really a skill acquired over time. You have to go to law school if you want to become a patent attorney, or you can actually just study for the patent bar and become what's called a patent agent, which gives you many of the same abilities to help inventors sort of navigate the complexities of the patent process without ever going to law school. So those are definitely two real career paths, and then examiners.
Yeah, so for examiner, having that discipline in engineering or life sciences, and sometimes the lesser known design patent examiner, which you may have an art degree or design degree, architecture, that lends itself to design patents. But that examination, that patent examination does go into that deep dive of the prior art searches. It is research intensive, right? You have a docket, it's production based. And so there is a lot of intense work that goes into that. But as an examiner, you are having the discussions with the inventor, so you're leveraging your technical expertise as well as you're starting to train your sort of translational skills, if you will, from the engineering or the inventor aspect as you're having discussions with attorneys. So we do often see our patent examiners as well as our trademark attorney examiners become examiners first, or perhaps patent agents, and then moving into law school. So it's not a linear path. Sometimes we see them stop and sort of develop their expertise before continuing on. The patent office does have programs that do fund the furtherance of education for law, so that is a benefit.
And just a very quick follow-up question, Marilyn, just for everyone here who may be interested in patent law as a career. How many patent examiners are there currently at the patent office, and are you currently hiring?
We are currently hiring, and so our examination core is growing. There had been approximately 13,000 patent examiners, and I know over the last maybe 30 days we've welcomed 2 classes that were in the hundreds. And so again, as we're looking to reduce that pendency and move those applications, push those out faster, we are hiring. Right now we're seeing them in the engineering and life science disciplines. Thank you.
Just quick follow-up question. For the patent examiners, are there some specialized background, they work in a certain field, or they examine all the possible patents?
So examiners are going to be primarily, if you're like a mechanical engineering student or graduate, you're going to be examining technology in those mechanical engineering arts. If you're computer science background, right, you may start to examine technology that's looking at software, even some of this AI tech, electrical engineering, and so on and so forth. And so as an examiner, you can apply, I believe it's the semester prior to graduation, and you would perhaps qualify to become an examiner. And so there's no specialized experience in the field that's needed. The specialized education is what takes priority to be able to have that educational background.
That's great. We can introduce another career path to our students. Like they can work on biomedical engineering or become a patent examiner. Another quick follow-up question for Mr. Ward. You mentioned about going to law school. How many years would that take to get a degree? I don't know.
The law school is the cheapest PhD doctor program. I guess it's not really a PhD that you can get. It's a Juris Doctor, and it takes 3 years normally to, if you're going full-time, to go through law school.
Thank you.
This one's for Dean Misra. How can engineering professors encourage students and researchers to move beyond theoretical work toward practical innovation and real-world impact?
I think the most important thing is curiosity-driven research.
Yeah.
That's the most important aspect. And when any faculty member or a student is conducting research, one should not have a preconceived notion. So that's another important aspect, because if you have a preconceived notion, the possibility that you may end up with a discovery is likely to be restricted. So I think these are the 2 most important ingredients. Curiosity-driven research. For example, how does a product works? Why this process is more efficient as compared to some other process? And this could lead to a new thought process. For example, let's take the example of nose cone of the space shuttle. And I still remember way back maybe 2 decades ago, we were trying to develop rocket motor casing. And during that point in time, the materials were not very pure. I mean, now over a period of years, we have learned how to make purer materials, so purification technologies have been developed. So that was a big challenge because there are elements in the periodic table, they get preferentially enriched at certain localized regions, which leads to uneven properties. So just from a purification perspective, I think it's better to understand why is it happening and what does it lead to. And I can tell you that based on my personal experience, we came out with a new technology. It was very simple. It was basically heat treatment. How can you modify the heat treatment in a manner such that you get uniform properties in X, Y, and Z direction? And that's how the new technology was developed for rocket motor casing. So I'm going to stop here. So curiosity is an important aspect for any invention or discovery to be made. Thank you.
All right, here's a quick one. Can LTU international students apply for a patent?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Any foreign national can apply for a patent.
Absolutely, and I know that this is a question that I get often, right, which is more along the lines, can foreign citizens apply for a U.S. patent? And that answer is yes, and so in this case, yes. But again, understanding that you are applying for patent protection within the U.S. It is not, I'm a foreign, so I'm a foreign citizen, I'm applying for a patent, and I will have patent protection also in my home country as well. That patent protection will be limited to the U.S. unless you file, going back to our international discussion, in your home country.
It's very similar to U.S. citizens filing for a PCT, and then in other countries, it's same other way around.
One just nuance caveat, right? The law is full of them. You know, many countries also do have foreign filing license requirements, and some have different laws pertaining to where the invention was made. And so if you're an international student and maybe you invented the idea while you were home for break, and when you came back you wanted to file here, you just might want to speak with a professional first just to make sure there's no laws that might require that you file outside of the U.S. first. But it's just a bit of a nuance. They're called foreign filing licenses.
This one sounds like it's from faculty. How do we help students stay focused on the innovation piece without getting derailed by the patent piece?
I'll take a step, but of course the dean and the professors and Dr. Nabil can follow up. Again, the motto of this university is be curious, make magic, which is exactly what the dean mentioned here. As we always say, processes, logistics, whether these logistics relate to publishing a paper or whether these logistics relate to making a presentation or filing a patent, are simply byproducts. I mean, the key is making sure our students get engaged, get curious, do intellectually meritorious work that is exciting, and then things happen. And I know I'm oversimplifying this, but these things could include patents, and that could be under the direction of the professor who is supervising or is engaged in the work. These things could be a paper to be published in an international or a national conference or a journal, and again, the faculty would be the guiding light. But the key is getting excited in a class. The key is working on projects in a class with a faculty member and with other students. Usually, you know, intellectual property or projects of intellectual merit gets developed that way. And I'll defer to, of course, my colleagues here.
I'll just piggyback on this, what President Soap said. When I was a faculty member, I remember very well what I was told. Even if you get a patent, does not mean you're going to make money, period. And I remember my second patent when I filed, and the state government would like to use it to build the first highway bridge in United States history. They used it. Did I get money? No. Did they pay me? No. But the fame that came from that for the university, for my faculty, for my students, cannot be measured by money, because we built the first highway bridge, we deployed the first patent in our history in this kind of area. But sometimes people need to think clearly that patent does not mean you're going to make funds, you're going to be wealthy. But the fame that would be generated for the department, for the university, for whatever you're doing, is beyond measurement.
Oh, yeah, that's excellent.
Sorry, can I?
Sorry.
From a faculty perspective, especially when we're working on a project involving students who can become inventors, and we have in the last we have actually 3 patent applications. We all have students as co-inventors. I do understand that sometimes students, when they work on a project, when they think about the patent, when they think about the lab work, it's actually 2 different thought processes. For example, when they work on a patent, we want to make it as broad as possible, because you have to protect all the different possibilities based on a leading independent claim. You have to develop so many potential embodiments based on that, and then each one will be at least one separate dependent claims. Then you cover this invention in the maximum. Doing so is mostly because we don't know which one will work the best yet, so we want to cover all the possible things. So this is one thought process. Students will feel like, okay, doing patent is to think as diverse as possible. But then when they do the real work, you actually need to teach them the opposite way. You have to take, okay, now we have these ideas. So we cannot just say we develop all these possible prototypes. There's no time to do that one. So we have to choose one, or choose a path to narrow down into one most promising one. So this is actually opposite process then. So they have to stay as focused as possible. So sometimes I feel like this is actually very hard to balance. So sometimes tell students, okay, be creative, try to do everything you can. Then the other week I say, okay, now we have to stay focused on this idea because we need to deliver some result to prove the concept. To me, I feel like I still don't know the best solution. I have to say, we have to kind of like dynamically adjust this one. Sometimes we say, okay, we need to be as broad as possible. Sometimes we have to say, okay, let's as focused as possible. And then depending on scenario and depending on the on what's your purposes in the end. I hope this somehow makes sense to you.
Very good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say very quickly, to your point, the sort of the tension there. That tension exists when we were working with our friends at the USPTO, because we want to try to be as broad as possible, because think of it like property, right? You're trying to get as much acreage there, as much value as you can. On the flip side, it's a tightrope that we're walking, because we're also trying to stay new. We're trying to meet the legal standards, and you can't just be so broad that it's actually not conceivably new, and then the patent never grants. So it is very much a tightrope that you walk, as a patent attorney assisting inventors.
Okay, for Dr. Jing, what advice would you give to aspiring inventors or researchers about identifying patentable ideas?
One thing I feel like, so again, this is kind of like a different thought process. I feel like we all are experts in a certain field, and sometimes having too much expertise sometimes can actually be doing oppositely. For example, when I learn about a certain field, I know everything about this field. Very often I somehow kind of would trap myself to say I only know, I mostly think about this field like in this particular area. And then my recommendation to make inventions, actually, we always have to force ourselves to think out of the box. So I think this may be the key word we should say, keep thinking out of the box. For example, maybe these are well-known approaches for these experiments people are doing, and then people are always using the same approaches. Then I can think about, okay, so why do I have to do exact same approaches? Okay, these are well-recognized, well-established. So how could I bring a totally new, different approaches? Maybe bring some concept from another field, or maybe using a totally different materials, or maybe incorporate a new design approaches, which can totally do from the outside. Kind of like you go from a higher dimension, then you come down to a lower dimension to solve the problem you want to solve at the beginning. I hope that makes sense. Think out of the box. Maybe that's a way to make a innovation. And another, I strong resonate with like our panelists thinking is like curiosity, I think, and also the impulses. That's actually kind of like the trigger. I feel like based on my observation, I'm talking about my students. I feel like the students who are more creative from my class or have good ideas, usually they are very curious. They keep asking me very curious questions. And many of the some questions are good, some are bad. Actually, they're all good questions. I shouldn't say good or bad. I would say some questions are really sound ridiculous, but you do think they are really thinking. That's good. Like they may don't have enough knowledge yet, but they are very curious about, can I solve this problem using this way? So once that trigger, I think it can never be stopped. That it will be just self-exciting. I mean, a process to just generate more and more ideas, and then we can just keep discussing. I think that this same process I can also work with our faculty as well. Like once you think out of the box, when you keep asking questions, I think that will be just getting better and better. I hope that makes sense.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Just a very quick follow-up. One of, I think, the advantages of working in academia when it comes to developing intellectual property is the fact that most researchers in academia are very well trained in researching prior art. I mean, that's what we do for a living. When we're working on a new project, whether it's for a publication or you know, to apply for a grant or something cool that occurred to us, many of us have been trained in academia for many, many years on how to research the heck out of that particular idea and do, you know, very significant searches and, you know, for many, many years, and everything that was published about that idea. That is actually a very helpful thing when, you know, we approach a patent attorney as an example, because lots of the work that has been done to discover prior art might have already been done by the inventor or the professor or the students working for the professor. And usually there is a reasonable, not in all the cases by any stretch, but usually there is a reasonable conclusion that this is really a novel, new idea, period. Of course, again, you know, people not from academia are not trained that well in discovery of prior arts. But of course, none of them anyway are trained as good as a patent attorney or as a patent agent or patent, you know, examiner in this case. That's all.
Excellent. Thank you. One last question, because we're running over. I don't know if you've realized that, and I apologize, but this is very interesting and really enjoying the conversation. But somebody did ask, can you license a trademark like you would a patent? Are they both in the same category?
Yes. Taking Dr. Soeb's answer. Yes. So it's right there in the name of what we're calling it is intellectual property. And anything that is property or has the characteristics of property can be sold and rented, and that's all really a license is. It's just a rental of intellectual property, which could be patents, it could be trademarks, it could be copyrights. And so yes, is the answer.
Very good, thank you, Jake. And so I'll just leave it open for anybody that would like to make any last comments in conclusion.
Can I ask Marilyn? Oh, sorry. Can I ask Marilyn a quick question? This actually come into. I didn't mean to undermine like other people's work. When I will say like, if you look into the many patents, they describe like what they do, what they protected. Somehow I feel like it doesn't seem all those ideas can work. You know what I mean? It's like it seems like they just have an idea. They didn't even prove it. And some of their description, you can even figure out they may have some fundamental physical flaws in that. Probably won't really work. I mean, I didn't test it yet, but I think it's like when I read like 10 or 20 patents, maybe one or two really make me feel skeptical because they don't have experimental results. They just like, oh, this is the idea how we have component 1, 2, 3, 4. Then they say, oh, we protect this one. And then I feel like, is it really like kind of fair enough? Like, is this supposed to be who filed first get it right, or who prove it first to get it right? This is kind of like a dilemma to me. I don't know from a legal perspective or from USPTO government organization or from the inventor point of view, what do you think will be the best balance in this field?
Sure. Well, fundamentally, when you're filing that patent application, you have to prove that it works, right? So it can't simply be an abstract idea or something that you think may work. You are essentially describing exactly what it is, how it functions, and then the claims, as you said, how much acreage, how much property it is that you want to protect. So typically, those granted patents have been proven to work. Now, to your point, how you commercialize and which ones you take to market, perhaps which ones you license, you know, that is a business matter. But then there is also, I want to speak, I know that we focused a lot on patents, but you may find that a trade secret is actually a stronger intellectual property protection type, and you're perhaps framing that with either copyright protection as well as trademark protection if you intend to commercialize it. I think that we do see some inventions that don't meet the criteria for patentability, but they are still a viable product or service that where we do see commercial success because that inventor did not stop at the no, you're not eligible for a patent. Instead, again, that they have protected their invention, right, which is more than an idea. It actually has some function. They've protected that through that branding process, through that trademark or that copyright protection. I hope that answers your question.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
I just want to add that I am so thankful to be among so many brilliant people. And as a new inventor, keep, you know, my message is keep going. Just keep going because there is so much support out there. You're not in it alone. I've had a lot of support through resources like Centropolis Accelerator and Ward Law. And so just believe in your dream and keep going.
Very good. Well, on that note, I think we can conclude, and we thank all of you for coming and supporting. Understand how busy all of your schedules are. You are all amazing people, and you are the powers that be, and we appreciate your attendance.
Thank you, Roger.
Yep, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you. Very